Welcome to this week's edition of the No Script Show, where just like the United Negro College Fund, we're funded by the Koch brothers.
Okay, we got the demonetization in the intro. I am happy that we have become more efficient at this.
I was going to go for a low-hanging fruit Venezuela joke, but
But
yeah,
there's no fruit left in Venezuela, so that would
no,
just be
there is
cruel.
not. No, that's terrible. For those of you listening, we genuinely do feel empathy for so many people actually suffering in Venezuela, but
Yeah,
that is a bit of gallows humor for a second there.
everything in the country is gallows humor now. I don't know if you've noticed. It's all bad. It's all bad. Um, Incidentally, the UNCF does exist. In case you thought we were just being weird and racist, it is an actual thing you can Google. The United Negro College
It
Fund.
is.
Um, and then the slogan is "A mind is a terrible thing to waste," and I can't decide if that's patronizing or inspirational.
Uh,
Oh my god!
uh, the thing about that is though, right? I wonder, is it still okay to be named that in today's climate? Like, is that
I honestly don't even know what the rules are anymore. I will not pretend to understand. Um, what I will say though is that as of today, it's only 299 days until Christmas, so you better get your shopping done.
let's get it? It's also sadly the end of Black History Month, but I think we did it justice. Yeah,
Yeah, for the rest of the year, Black History just ceases to exist, right? Like,
yeah,
just the whole thing just goes away. Just gone.
uh,
Control
yeah.
and
It's
delete.
also the start of March Madness for those of you who care about basketball in the States.
Isn't that a
Uh,
football thing? Is it basketball? Sorry, I
uh,
always thought of anything madness, I just immediately picture as football. Like,
no, it's a basketball thing.
okay.
It to a certain extent it includes football, but the real show for football in the States is like the college bowl finals.
Right.
That's the one Clemson, like the national college finals. That's the one Clemson won and got to eat burgers with Donaldinho Trumperino. So yeah,
The best week for memes. That was a good week.
yeah, yeah. It was a good week.
Um,
Uh,
all right, so this week has been batshit, as most weeks go. I have a couple of topics, some of which are amazing, some of which are quite depressing, so a good mix. Um,
Really? I just have text topics. Like I'm actually speaking tech now.
yeah, you were going to do a whole bunch of research and shit and talk to us about something astronomical.
Oh, some really cool space telescopes we're working on. That's, well, not we, but humanity.
It's like,
Um,
so the thing is, we can talk about that, or we can talk about the fact that Peter got ripped a new one because they like mocked Steve Irwin on his birthday.
dude!
That happened. It's like you can choose.
I love that. That is amazing. Hashtag fuck Peter is literally or was trending on Instagram and Twitter. That is
Uh,
amazing. To Peter, I mean, I tweeted something to the effect, and then they also went in on the new Pokemon games coming out. They released their own mocking version of it, mocking that Pokemon is basically animal cockfighting. But I tweeted
yeah.
something to the effect of clearly you guys weren't, happy with all the hate you've garnered. But I mean,
They need more.
yeah,
They
I
must.
mean, like, really, Steve Irwin? You're gonna go after Steve Irwin? That's like going after Betty White, America's grandma. Like,
Yeah.
it's not gonna work out for you. Steve Irwin was the world's uncle.
I just. It's like I'm. Peter used to be an anomaly. It's like everything would be kind of okay, and then Peter would have like the outrageous take on it. Now all the takes are so outrageous. Peter actually looks like out of date. Like they're trying very hard to make themselves relevant again. Because I think the core argument was Steve Irwin was a net negative for conservation because his TV shows were him, disturbing animals in their natural habitat. And I'm like, okay, I will grant you that is true. Let's just assume it's true. Off camera, he did way fucking more than anyone gives him credit for. So, like, that's not even an argument. But I love the blowback. And I love that Peter just stood their ground. I mean, obviously they stood their ground.
Of course, you got to double down. I
I,
saw some meme. You know that meme of all the kings and stuff putting their swords
oh,
around the crown, yeah,
it
and
kept getting better. Like, as the week went on, they kept.
it is. I know I saw a version of that where it reached a point where it's literally everybody conceivable on planet Earth that isn't
Yeah,
in Peter was united against Peter. Like
and it's
far
like
right, far left, vegans. Okay, oh, well, not vegans, but
yeah.
like fucking people who put pineapple on pizza.
And then the ultimate one that I saw had everyone in it, and then it had God and black holes in the top. It was just
Yes,
like everyone, fucking
everyone.
everyone.
Yes.
Oh my god, no, that was
That is amazing.
well. At least, like in a weird way, it's kind of a relief to know that Peter are still a bunch of assholes. Like it's
They
still a
are.
constant.
Somehow they managed to unite both the alt right and SJWs against him. That's amazing. That's
Yes,
an amazing
I
feat.
know.
Okay, fuck bringing peace to North Korea. Okay,
No,
this deserves a Nobel Peace Prize.
uh, yeah, you see, so some, yeah, Peter is maybe they're a vital part of our public discourse. Like we just need them to hate on so we can all feel united again for a bit, because they're more than happy to just put this absolutely outrageous shit out there. So, speaking of Pokemon, isn't I mean, it all kind of went away because it's in production, but the Ryan Reynolds voicing Pikachu Pokemon movie when's that due out? Isn't that like later this
I
year?
I think so as well. I will say though, if Ryan Reynolds drops out, I'm willing to accept Danny DeVito as a substitute for the voice of Detective Pikachu.
Yes.
I
Yes.
think that would be amazing. That would just be so great.
That would be great. So I just want to check. There's already a
Like there
trailer.
was a wave of sort of like Detective Pikachu Deadpool memes for a while because of Ryan Reynolds, and then
Yeah.
that kind of died out. So I think at this point we're still sort of waiting for it to come out.
Oh shit! 2 months. The release date is 2 months from now, May the 9th.
That's a brave that's a bold move.
Well,
Releasing so soon after Avengers Endgame.
what are the
That
chances? What are the chances that Avengers Endgame is just like disappointing, and then Pikachu saves everyone, and then like for the next 5 years they make Avengers Pikachu crossovers? Because why the fuck not? Everything else has happened. Like,
why not? We've reached a level of, shall we say, maximum absurdity in the simulation that it's like
The simulation is accommodating for that by constantly increasing the limit of maximum absurdity.
true.
So,
I
yeah.
mean, what if they team up against Peter? Like Detective Pikachu and the Avengers team up against Peter.
it would actually be amazing if like because we all in the Pokemon universe the canon is always that there's like the kid who wants to kind of beat them all, and then there's like some kind of team that stands against them, and it's always like Team Rocket, like depending on which game you pick.
Team Rocket, Team Aqua, Team Magma, Team
Exactly. There's all of those, and I see now they've just gone all the way. The new ones is like Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield. Like fucking okay, like the teams are now in the game name. Got it.
Yeah.
But they're usually like they're painted as the bad guys, but they've done a good job of making it morally ambiguous, because there was a sometimes these quote unquote bad guys actually have a really good point to what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
But I can only imagine that like there's some sort of reference to Peter being the actual bad guys in the Pokemon movie, because it's like, sure, there's this team that's trying to like destroy or save the world, and you're just the kid, but also there's this bunch of Pokemon slavers that have an acronym very similar to Peter for some reason. And they're the actual bad guys that everyone hates. That would be a beautiful moment, I think.
It would be. It would be.
Yeah, and if it's any consolation, Peter's efforts over the last couple of decades haven't actually reduced cruelty to animals at all. So,
Yeah, no,
like,
they're like the UN of animal welfare. That's how useful they are.
they're like the Bono of animal welfare.
They're the Bono of That's what they are, yes. For the record, guys, for those of you listening, dear people, we don't oppose animal welfare, but honestly, like support anything but Peter. Like anything but these jackasses.
There's okay, like seriously, like if you honest to God care about, for example, factory and feedlot farming, right? That I'm on board with. That is a very cruel and unusual fate for large amounts of cattle to go through. Best way to support that is to, either go vegan, and that is an honest to God, that is a thing that happens, and there is surprisingly an uptick in this. There's been some development. I don't know if I spoke about this on the last episode.
Oh, with the Impossible Burger.
There's the Impossible Burger and Impossible Foods, but in general, and I'm not a vegan by any means. I literally just had bacon and eggs for breakfast. Okay, but they have there's been a lot of advancement in the food science behind it to the point where you can now get vegan food, which is honestly just as sort of emotionally comforting and just as fattening as like regular meat-based diets. And apparently, there's been a bit of a swing in, especially in the UK, was the one place I heard. Like year over year, there's been like it was a 600% increase in the demand for.
Oh yeah, I remember you mentioned something like this.
I
Yeah.
mentioned that, yeah. And so, like, you know, vegans are the worst part about the whole vegan culture. Honestly, the really pushy people that try to evangelize it as a lifestyle, fuck them to
Mm,
eternity. But
mm,
the diet itself is mostly okay if you make sure that you get the right stuff. And that's
mm.
honest to God the best way to shift the demand for meat away, which is what will reduce the supply, which is what will actually end the factory farming. No
Mm.
amount of smearing blood
Yeah,
on your
it's an
face.
economic solution. It's
Yeah.
it's just like drunk driving and drunk driving checkpoints. Like there's that libertarian meme or whatever meme that let's be honest, guys. Services like Uber and Lyft have done more for ending drunk driving than DUI checkpoints ever
Oh, yeah.
have, and it's true. So the market works. Like
No, it
the
does.
market really works.
And look, I rate that if, especially if Impossible Foods takes off, and you won't believe this, there's been opposition from actual vegetarian groups that complain that the ingredients in the Impossible Burger haven't passed all the approvals and shit, and therefore it's wrong. But these are the same idiots that will write articles about how this quinoa bean extract will help cure your cancer or whatever. It's like it's
Of
amazing to watch
course.
that because the thing is, Impossible Burger and Impossible Foods is an economic solution to the problem. Um, Not only does it work, it's also economically viable if they can produce it in large enough quantities. So, if you
Yeah.
actually, yeah, I mean, like, there's always going to be assholes and people doing shit to animals, but in the main, if you're legitimately concerned about factory farming and about that kind of thing, there's an economic solution to that. And the best
Mm.
part is, it's not the sacrifice it used to be. I mean, it used to be a thing of like, okay, now you can only eat carrots and celery or some shit. Like the vegan diet was fairly limited, but it's changed. It really has changed.
Yeah.
So,
I yeah. I mean, like I'd be inclined to say, it's, and I also am no vegan by anything stretch it, but and I don't, and I mean this in the best way. I don't particularly care for animal welfare causes. My heart is with people welfare causes,
yeah,
but that's just a function of being human. I think you cannot bear to care about absolutely everything because your heart will be overwhelmed by sadness and you're just going to be miserable. So
yep,
my main thing is human. But that being said, I do care about, to a certain extent, about how my burger gets on my plate. And as a moral standpoint thing, I if I could get a burger that's, as you say, perfectly like that, and the only difference is that no animal had to die for its thing, then
yeah,
I don't see the opposition to such.
yeah. And it's
Why?
and the thing is,
Because at that point, then it's a moral thing. Then you genuinely want the animal to die to be satisfied.
and sure, like, and there will be people like that, and eventually they'll all die out. Like, it's not,
Yeah.
this is not a permanent, nothing in the human condition is permanent. Like, we can change over time, and we have. But the thing that's most likely to happen actually is that Impossible Burger will create they'll create something which is indistinguishable from beef. Um, then they will prove that they can produce it at scale safely. They'll prove that there's no bad side effects. They'll get all their approvals. And then at that point, any one of the major fast food chains, like if McDonald's took it on and they said, okay, we'll try it out, and it turns out the economics make sense because you don't really have to give antibiotics to plants. That's the thing unique to factory farms. And there's
Yeah.
like a whole bunch of halo effect around it's actually better to do it this way. And people don't seem to notice or mind, they still buy the cheeseburgers, even though it's now entirely plant based. If they make that switch overnight, that's like 20% of the global problem solved. It's like
Yeah.
one company making that choice. So that's actually how you're going to fix this. Absolutely not by Pete
Mm.
doing Peter's shit.
Yeah.
Oh my god, yeah. I feel like I've been ethically mistreated by Peter now. Can we move on
I,
from?
I I have been too. I mean, but like you said, people can change over time. And
Yeah.
by the way, speaking of changing over time, I see the iconic World War II victory sailor kiss in Times Square is now a Me Too moment.
Oh, for fuck's
Uh,
sake.
I don't really want to get into it, but honestly, like, okay, so for those of you who don't know, just Google search World War II victory sailor kiss Times Square. It's a really iconic piece of Americana that it's this young sailor who's just heard that the news that the Japanese had surrendered after we nuked them twice, uh, and he's got this nurse in this very passionate embrace, and they're kissing in the middle of Times Square. I'm sure everyone's seen it, and there've
Yeah.
been remixes of it. But the bottom line is now, he unfortunately passed on recently, R.I.P. And but the nurse in the picture is still alive, and basically a lot of the SJWs are now saying that was an iconic Me Too moment. And I'm like, okay, here's the thing. Firstly, the nurse in question says we were just wrapped up for the most part. All the statements I've seen her say are, we were just wrapped up in the moment and very happy. And you would be, because you just beat the Nazis and you were about to ship out to continue fighting in Japan when you found out, oh, by the way, this war is over. I would be elated as
Oh
well.
yeah.
Like, yeah. So firstly, the people involved in the kiss are like, no, it's cool. We were happy in that moment,
Yeah.
And secondly, again, it's not like he's tying her up to some sex dungeon. He was just a little wrapped up in the moment, and
But it's also like these activists don't need a thing to be true in order for them to get worked up about it. They will just project their own meaning onto anything and then like say, "Oh, look, this was a misogyn." Because the thing is, if this woman wasn't alive, there would be no one to push back against the narrative, and they would be like, "Yeah, this is."
yeah,
I can just imagine the arguments they made.
and the statue's actually already been vandalized.
Oh, I saw that somebody actually tagged it #MeToo in like bright red or something.
And again, like you said, if it wasn't for the nurse in question actually pushing back against it, it'd probably be way worse.
This is probably why it's very important that people record things and put it on the internet, so that in future, when some dumbass activist wants to be like, "Oh, they were a bunch of racists," then you can go back and find the actual information. Because what the fuck, dude? But
there's nothing more to say on that. I was just bowled over. I mean, it's like
yeah, and it's
you're retconning an iconic moment in American and general world history to suit your narrative. That's what you're doing.
Also, in that whole kind of slice of history, they're more worked up about the kiss than the fact that 2 nuclear bombs were dropped and God knows how many people were killed in Japan.
Thank you. That's what you're focusing on?
It's like, dude, there was also a lot of panicked embracing in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, but not for the same reasons. Okay, and like, let's talk about and the thing is, like, the justification for that, because I know, like, when I first heard about it, I was like, oh my God, America, nuked these defenseless people and killed millions. And it's like, well, actually, no. What really happened was Japan was dead fucking set on carrying on the war forever. When
that's just their culture.
Yeah, remember, they were the samurais. They got nuked into the Hello Kitty culture. Just FYI, that's actually what happened. But they were reticent. Germany had fallen. They were going to carry on. So then America took the very, very difficult decision to nuke the 2 of them. And the thing is, they didn't just show up and nuke it. They warned them for like a week in advance or something. And then was like the days before the nuke, they were dropping pamphlets on the areas telling people, get the fuck out, we're going to nuke you. Probably not in those exact words. But the thing is, it wasn't just out of the blue. They telegraphed their intentions, said they were going to do it, warned everyone to get out, and then did it. It wasn't surprise out of the blue, sort of like, like you see in the movies, like a nuke lands out of nowhere. That's not what happened.
Yeah.
And the thing is, the lives lost were immense, but in all likelihood, that was a much smaller cost than what an actual ongoing war would have been.
They were willing to fight to the last man, woman, and child. Oh, yeah. Literally.
Yeah,
literally.
So it's like, sure, it's a very dark moment in world history, but and the thing is, there's some estimates you can look up on how much darker it would have been had they not used that and not done that. So it's like, it sucks. But also, if you want to criticize anything about the way America handled the war, maybe that. Not the kiss in Times Square. That's got fuck all to do with anything.
Yeah. I mean, come on.
But it also... it also just highlights that these activists, they live in the parallel reality created by the media, because to them, stuff that happens in the media is as if it is reality, and that's the entire domain they play in. actual reality is beyond them. They don't understand what suffering is. They just seem to think that it happens in the media entirely. So they get worked up over the stories. And it should come as no surprise that a lot of these people trained in media and marketing and work in that industry. And it's like, if your whole world is media, then so too will your sense of ethics and your humanity will stem from that, you know? Actually go out and meet some of these people, work with them. You might realize how off base you are, but you know, that's not going to happen. So I guess
Screw that. So yeah.
I guess we're stuck with the memes, dude.
I mean, I actually heard it. Now that you mentioned it, I heard. I mean, I haven't had the time to properly research this, but apparently, in preparation for a conventional mainland invasion of Japan, this is just to put into context how bad they thought it would be. The American military, and I'll probably need to confirm this at a later point, produced a bunch of medals, not least of which were Purple Hearts. And you don't get a Purple Heart in the military unless you're seriously wounded, carry out an insane act of valor, or and die, or just barely live in the process of doing that. And they produced so many Purple Hearts in anticipation of the Japanese mainland invasion that for years afterwards in Korea and I think up to the first Gulf War, they were still giving out Purple Hearts that they had produced in World War II because they thought pretty much no one's coming back from this alive.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, in order for them to do that, they had to have done the maths and the probabilities and worked out, you know what, this is going to be an extremely costly invasion on all sides. I mean, it probably would have been like Viet Cong times 10 minimum, you know? So like, and it's just,
it's nothing we're not celebrating that people got nuked, but it's a dark moment. But as you pointed out,
there were no good choices at that point.
It could have been a lot darker. I think people fail to see just how much darker it could have been.
And that's the thing. It's like in that context, in that moment, there were no good decisions. It's not like they could just call a timeout and go, guys, this is getting out of hand, and then they have a beer and then it's all okay. Like, that's not what the situation was.
Emperor Hirohito isn't going to be kicking back doing Jaeger shots with fucking FDR over this, you know, like...
Yeah, you had God knows how many really hardcore... I mean, the Japanese were essentially nationalists, right? They were trying to create, what was it, the Greater East Prosperity Region or something. They were trying to actually create an empire. They were going for it. I mean, if you play Red Alert 3 and you see the storyline for the Japanese faction, that's almost exactly what they were trying to do, just with much less weaponry. I mean... That was the situation. So like, and it's very easy to lose that context when you want to make a point as an activist, right? But still, that is all more meaningful and relevant than the Times Square case. Like, just fuck. But we can't have these conversations anymore, right? It's all about how things appear. So fuck. Dude. All right, I need to just mention, because I think locally this has probably been my favorite story in the last week.
Oh, this is going to be good.
Is the resurrection?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
Love that. Resurrection challenge.
Because they brought the man back to life and they've been trying desperately to kill the story ever since.
I see what you did there.
Yeah. Everyone has distanced themselves, like the funeral parlor, like they have got nothing to do with it, the church has nothing to do with it. Outer made a spoof video of that. They were trying to resurrect ETOLs and then they couldn't, and that was like a little spoof ad that they did. And I'm just like, holy shit.
Yes.
This has been amazing. And it's like, all the stories that came out of it, like, you know, all the people that were in the, like, so there's the video, and I'm sure you can look it up, just resurrection video. And there was the guy kind of praying over this dude, and then there was a bunch of people standing behind them that looked amazed. And that was apparently very carefully edited, you know, like they offered people up to 2,000 Rand to pretend they were going to be surprised. And then after the end of that, it was all to kind of raise the church's profile and be like, you know, this pastor can perform miracles. And I'm sitting here like, what? How? Like, spraying doom on people's faces, eating grass, okay, I can still kind of see how you can build a case around that. Resurrecting someone from a coffin, really?
Yeah.
And not only that, there must have been people who legitimately kind of fell for this. Because otherwise, why even suggest something so insane, unless if you know at least some people. And I'm just like, Okay, I need a timeout for a second. What the fuck is happening here? I don't know. I just- where's the reset button for reality? Because I need it now.
uh,
just restore the
it's
save
just,
point to before that. Because
it's just, oh.
so anyway, are resurrections common in your culture?
No,
Oh,
they're not.
okay.
Uh,
Same
Death is
here.
not a symptom people often recover from. Although I did actually get declared dead once on campus
Oh
in my
shit!
undergrad. Yeah, I
Wow.
was. It was actually a pretty wild party, and in the winter, and we were doing like that Club 100s club thing. Kids, do not drink like this. We do not endorse binge drinking or alcohol abuse.
Yeah, we're a bunch
And
of
also
old
for my
fatties.
discovery agent Deb, I don't drink like this anymore. In fact, I never drink anymore. Anyway, back to the point. Um, so we were doing a hundreds club, 100 shots of beer in 100 minutes, and then you just keep going beyond that. Which,
That sounds
yeah,
rough.
one shot of beer, you're like, huh? And then you actually do the calculations in volume. Like that's
It's a lot of
a
beer.
lot of beer. So I drank myself into stupor, passed out on campus. It's in the middle of winter. It's cold as all hell, and I have a condition where I have a very faint pulse. And so
So
the CASBIA campus whatever campus security bureau took my pulse and couldn't find anything, and so they declared me dead.
oh
And
wow.
they and they this is the weird part. They left me in res, like they left me in the day house. They're like, we'll take care of the funeral or the body, whatever, later. And but they were so quick to strike me off the roll for registrations and stuff. Thank you, UJ. Strike me for the registration roll and all that, and arrange a memorial service, and which I did attend, by the way, when I woke up. I'm not shitting you. Yeah, I'm not even shitting you.
You
I did
attended your
attend that.
own memorial service. Holy
Yeah,
shit.
me and my mates decided. They're like, oh, they put like a notice on campus. This student, unfortunately, was found thing. They had like a little profile picture for me from my res, and like they're
Oh
like,
my god.
it was a FYI. The girl I was hitting on, sort of seeing at the time, did not attend my memorial. I take that
Oh.
very personal.
Oh, that is
Very
harsh.
personal. These hoes ain't loyal. Lil Wayne and Drake were right. These hoes ain't loyal. Okay. Chris Brown, Lil Wayne, all those guys, they were right. These hoes ain't loyal. Anyway, my own memorial, and I continued to be dead because I thought it was a gas up until the point that I think it was one of my economics exams. I tried to write it, and they like ran my student number. They're like, "You're not allowed to write this exam." I'm like, "Why not?" They're like, "Because you're indicated as dead on our records."
But I'm right here.
All right, yeah. Like, are you so like lemminged into the system that even though I'm right here in front of you, you
That's that is
So yeah, I had
amazing.
to go to the admin board and sort that out. The best part of it though was when I went to the admin board, it apparently the security officer who declared me dead was the guy on duty that day. So that must have been like a real gas for him.
Oh, I'm
So
sure.
yeah,
Oh, dude, that is rough. Okay,
yeah.
there is a lot to unpack in that 5 minute story of how you died on UJ. Jesus. Wow. All right. So I'm co-hosting a podcast with an actual resurrected person. So
Yeah.
as an authority on resurrection, we can declare the one that church did absolutely false.
Yeah, that one wasn't real. Real niggas don't resurrect like that.
On top of everything else, you can see the guy breathing in the video before he gets resurrected. Like what? I think he even blinked. I saw him blink, and then like a few seconds later, it's like,
Outstanding.
oh my god. The thing is, though, for them to have made it legit, to actually copy the story of Lazarus in the Bible, he had to have been dead and buried for 2 days and then resurrected. So, on that, it fails the Lazarus test anyway. Not
It
that
does.
is even remotely possible, but it also fails that test. So, I don't know where the church is now. I just know everyone's like denying it, and the funeral parlor pretends like,
Suddenly, everyone's just gone like.
yeah, exactly. It's
It's
fine.
amazing.
We'll resurrect the story next week and see where they
There
are.
was also some lady, I think, who was out. Was it in Ventersdorp or Vereniging, somewhere there? Anyway, some lady who had like a fit and then died. It didn't make as much headlines,
Hmm.
but died during a service. because she's diabetic and has all sorts of other issues. And apparently that I think it's one of the NGK congregations. Anyway, that pastor also resurrected that lady in the same week that this resurrection story was going on. But I guess the black church did it with more pizzazz to make headlines. So
Way more
yeah,
pizzazz. They had people very well dressed for that, the
yeah,
whole thing. Like, yeah.
yeah.
But I think probably the best is that there's a photo which is, it's going to be like their version of that Beyonce photo that you're trying to take off the internet where she just looks like a dog. You know that photo where she's like on stage
Yeah,
like
that
the fishnets with
weird
like
face.
that face, that one?
Yeah, yeah.
There's a photo of the pastor in the church standing on stage with the logo of the church behind him in a microphone, wearing a suit with one foot in the coffin that the guy was resurrected from, kind of proclaiming that he just resurrected the dude. That, if that photo doesn't kill that church, I don't know what will. But that's like, it's the tackiest shit you can ever see. Plus, it's of a fake resurrection. Plus, why the fuck did you try resurrecting someone? For what? I don't know.
No, as a truly resurrected person, I take that very personally.
It's like you identify
My
as
culture
resurrected.
is not your photo op.
Ooh, shit. Hashtag me too. Did you just me too that thing? Is that what you just did?
Yeah. He deserves to be me too, not the sailor soldier.
Oh man. All right. So some good news though, and I just saw, and I was looking this up right before we started recording, which is amazingly good news. Rami Malek, the guy that headlined Mr. Robot, just amazing actor, also did that Queen movie where he played Freddie Mercury, which I haven't seen, but apparently it was so hardcore that he won an Oscar for that. So congrats.
Damn.
As like someone relatively new to movies to get an Oscar that quickly, that is hardcore. Good job.
I love that. Also, I love that we're not mentioning the actual Oscars this year.
No, fuck the rest of them. This was the only one I'm interested in. Because there was a whole lot of bullshit around it, but I don't care about that. I care about this. Not only that, I just saw now that he is slated to be the villain in the next Bond movie, and I'm like, fuck yes. I want to see.
I like that. Yeah.
I would, because he was already okay. I don't know if you guys remember, but Mr. Robot season 1, episode 1, the scene in the coffee shop where he starts, and he lays out to this guy how he found his like pedophile website and all the rest, and then there's like this whole moment where the guy tries to bribe him, then threatens him, and then he walks out. The cops come in, and I'm like, that is the most villain-esque 5 minutes I've seen in my life. Like this dude, if he actually has to play an actual villain, it's gonna be electric. So. I might watch James Bond movies again. Like, you know, after the last one. I don't know if anyone gives a shit about James Bond, but I do think my best moment was, I think in the last movie that Daniel Craig did. He was so out of it. Like you can tell he didn't want to be in the movie. There's a car chase scene through like Paris or some shit. You know, like typical Bond, there's like the dude in the car behind him, and he's in like the supercar, and there's a moment where the camera catches him from outside the car, and the look on his face is like, I don't want to fucking be here, like in the middle of a car chase. And I'm like, okay, we got it, dude, loud and fucking clear. We got it. You're done. It's cool.
Like when your mom makes you go to your cousin's birthday that you don't really like. That look.
That look of just like, I'm here for the paycheck. Like, you know, I don't actually care about putting any effort in.
I'm just here so I don't get fined. It's contractual.
So anyway, it's like, I haven't checked what the rumors are for the next one, but if they can do Idris Elba as Bond and they do Rami Malek as the villain, then that is going to be the movie I want to see.
I'm really interested in an Idris Elba, but I know there's the whole furor around Black Bond. I really don't care. I just think Idris Elba is cool. Also, FYI, Idris Elba would be the first actual British guy in ages to play Bond.
Yes, on top of everything else. No, I'm like, okay, this is James Bond. This is the series that, among other things, had a plot where one crazy space industrial guy built a modern version of Noah's Ark and wanted to kill the entire planet with a toxin made from a flower. That was an actual fucking movie. It was called Moonraker. Now, you want to go to that level. You want to go there, but a Black Bond is too much. Really?
Yeah.
Guys,
yeah, apparently.
Lighten the fuck up, okay? It's a movie. Like, you'll be fine.
Because that's the thing, right? That's the thing. As much as I love ripping on SJWs, the right in many contexts is also easily offended. Like they're like, Like the slightest things, like, yeah, we want to do this. Globalist, Koch brothers, or like, or like, oh, let's just let this person do this, or whitewashing or blackwashing, whatever. I'm like, oh, come on, just
I have actual whitewashing complaints. The Scarlett Johansson Ghost in the Shell movie.
yeah,
That is a very
that I am
fucking
upset about.
sore point for me. That's a very sore point for me. But
I mean, she's robotic, so I guess she falls in that category well enough, but she's not actually Asian.
I'll get into that in a sec. But Black Bond, guys, come on. It's a movie, right? I mean, in one of the last ones, the big evil plot was that the bad guys, Quantum, wanted to control Bolivia's water supply. You've run out of ideas, okay? You're fucking out of ideas now. I wanna see a Black Bond.
I actually forgot about that for a second.
Yes.
About the water supply thing.
You're out of ideas, guys. You're fucking done. So I want to see Idris Elba go undercover by like some African warlord or some shit who want to launch like an actual Wakanda-style invasion. I want to see that. I am fucking done with these, control the water supply, or what was the other one? There was the army lost a nuke, and so Dr. No tried to recover the nuke to threaten the US government. And I'm like, that was a fucking Archer episode. That shit is all over and done with. We need new material.
FYI, militaries, I guess not so much anymore, used to lose nukes a lot more often than anyone cares to be comfortable with enough to admit.
Yeah.
Nukes and nerve gas, like those warheads used to go missing very quick. Plus, there's still the ton of stuff that nobody ever recovered that disappeared at the dissolution of the Soviet Union. There's this, it's still out there somewhere. Nobody knows.
If you want like a good overview of this, and I don't recommend this often, but John Oliver's Last Week Tonight, there's a special on nuclear weapons, was recorded like 2015. And among other things, he points out there's a little signpost somewhere in South Dakota where there was an incident where a US Army plane was carrying 2 nuclear weapons and they fell off the plane and struck the ground, but they weren't armed and they were that fucking close to nuking South Dakota. And it's like, just watch that nuclear weapons episode. You'll see actually it's way worse than you think it is. And,
Yeah, we lose that shit all the time.
We do. But it's just, anyway, so like, guys, a Black Bond is fine. The story will survive, okay? It'll be fine. Seriously.
Although, I mean, it is South Dakota, so do we care that it got nuked?
No, not really. It's like, isn't that why you have North Dakota?
Like, on the list of most irrelevant states, I think South Dakota is just underneath Wyoming.
Well,
there's that conspiracy that Wyoming isn't real. Like, it's no, really, Google it. Like, it's conspiracy that I'm not kidding to you. Like, millions of grown adults genuinely believe in a conspiracy that Wyoming is not a real place. And I've never met an American from the state of Wyoming, but I'm pretty sure it's real. And it all started out with a joke because Wyoming is perfectly square as a state. Its borders are
yes, yeah.
It was perfectly demarcated by the government. They're like, that's not a natural looking shape. That's not real. And that little meme just ran out to the point where people now genuinely believe that Wyoming is not a real place.
But the thing is, I am definitely on board.
This is 2019.
Oh yeah, no, I am on board for the fact that birds aren't real. Birds are secret government spy drones that sit on power lines to recharge. Wake up, people!
Wake up, people!
So anyway, I wanted to talk about the Ghost in the Shell thing, just to close this off. I'm a huge Ghost in the Shell fan.
Same.
I will admit that I prejudged Arise. So what they did, there was a couple seasons, couple movies, and then recently they did Ghost in the Shell Arise, a 4-part series that kind of prequels Section 9, the group of people that are central to the story. And they did retcon a couple of things, but overall it wasn't as bad. My whole bad reaction to it was that the first episode I saw, the much younger Major was plugged into a Microsoft Surface, and I'm like, fuck you, and I closed it. Like, that is painful product placement. Like, no, just don't do it. And that was the only instance. Like, the rest of it, there wasn't anything. I think they might have realized, guys, we can't do this. But anyway, so they kind of retconned the story a little bit. In the main series, they established... so the retcon, and I'm going to spoil all of this because it's all old anyway. So the retcon in Arise was that the Major, like the central female character, that she never actually had a body. that before she was born, there was a procedure to cyberize her sort of before birth. And so, she never actually had a body. I'm like, okay, that's pretty cool. That retconned a Ghost in the Shell kind of canon story before that, which was that she survived a plane crash as a kid and was cyberized very young. And it's like, it's about the same. At no fucking point was she a white person. So let's just start with that. No, because what they did with the Scarlett Johansson one, I just saw the details. It wasn't that she was a cyborg; it was that she was the wrong race of cyborg. Basically, like she was a Japanese woman in a white body or some shit like that. I don't. It upset me so much that I just closed it because it's like you didn't have to do that. Like you didn't. I mean, I'm again like I remember all the SJWs at the time were like, there's plenty of, great, Japanese actresses you can hire to do this. And why do you pick Scarlett Johansson? And I'm like 50-50 on board with that, honestly. Like, I don't want to see the Black Widow in this universe. I just don't,
Yeah.
For one thing, Major Kusanagi is a far more interesting character with way more personality than Black Widow is. Sorry, Marvel fanboys. And it's like, you didn't have to do that. But also, you didn't have to then retcon the story to fit. Like, that was just... No, at that point, I was just disappointed as all hell. So I still haven't seen it. I have no idea what the movie is like. But I will take back my harsh opinion of Arise. They did do a fairly decent job of setting it up. And the way it sets up is that the last 20 minutes of the 4th episode is actually the assassination that takes place in the first Ghost in the Shell movie. So they actually tied in perfectly. Down, like some of the effects are slightly different, but that whole thing, they actually end at that point. So it's like, okay, good job. Very good job.
Nice.
No fucking racial retconning anyway, because why would you? And I talk about this a lot, and
I can see the pain on your face about this.
Yes. No, but there's a meme out there of like Superman shooting lasers out of his eyes, and it's captioned Americanizing beam, and it's used as a meme to explain how America fucks things up from overseas. It's also a real thing, I'm convinced. A lot of people tend to adopt very American attitudes and perspectives about things. So mid-episode shout out to Big Daddy Liberty for all the work he did going to the party manifesto launches and talking to actual voters. Like, not even the SABC does that. So like, good job. But it's interesting in the DA one, he calls out, he mentions, he's talking to someone and he mentions that, oh, so you're using the American definition of liberal and conservative. And it's like, okay, time out for just a fucking second. First of all, America doesn't even agree on what that means anymore. Second, how is that relevant to our politics here? And it's like, you know what? It's the Americanizing beam. You actually did it yourself in this show. I don't know if you noticed.
What do you mean?
You talked about how we nuked Japan. Now, unless if South Africa actually deployed nuclear weapons,
that's a good point, yeah.
You see, and the thing is, that's the extent of American culture. It makes people outside of it feel like part of it because they export so much of it. And it's just like, just be aware of that. It's a thing that does actually happen, and it does distort things a little bit when you're trying to look at how the world actually operates. But that was just overkill on the Americanizing beam on that fucking Ghost in the Shell.
Although I guess technically we did, since technically we were on the side of the Allies.
Technically, yes. Through a very,
it's always uncomfortable how close it was for us to actually be on the opposite side. Like, we almost were on the Nazi side. Like people are like, hey, that was kind of like, hey guys, we were almost on the Nazi side, right?
Yeah, Namibia was a German colony up until some point, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's like it's just like one of those weirdly overlooked historical things. Like, remember when we were almost with the Nazis?
Oh yeah, no,
like everybody just conveniently ignores that point in history.
Yeah, no, it's like. Yeah. I almost think that retconning isn't a bug. It's probably a feature because we have to use it to make sense of the dichotomy of like, I'm not a bad person, but the people I'm with did bad things, and it's like you got to sometimes just block that shit out because otherwise you go insane.
And also, it's not just limited to like the Second World War or anything like that. Like, it is, as you say, like there's a lot of moments in history where people just very conveniently like overlook certain details to that.
Although actually we don't have to conveniently overlook shit right now. The ANC's track record is amazing. They defied an arrest warrant for Omar al-Bashir when he was down here on, like, they claimed diplomatic immunity and he fled the country.
Oh yeah.
They voted to back Maduro's government in Venezuela, and most
Yes, we're
recently,
with the bad guys in World War Three.
and most recently, they actually sent a delegation over there to show support for Maduro's government.
I love your meme. Please don't come back.
It's not even a meme. It's an honest to God, sincere request. Just fucking stay there. Like, we don't need you.
Stay there.
We don't need you.
I feel like in a World War Three situation, South Africa would be pivotal, partially because as an area, it's a critical staging point in the transition from east to west. You know, if you control South Africa, you control a key area of the African continent, and it's a good staging to move towards the east. And partially because it'll be critical, because I think, and this is me just theorizing, even though the government is very clearly with quote unquote the bad guys,
Yep.
I think a large chunk of the populace would probably end up backing the West and
So
like a US UK coalition in a World War III type situation.
Yep. So among other things,
Like I know if my government backed the Ruskies, I'd be like, that's cool. I'm rooting for the Americans here invading. Like I'm on their side.
You're already part of the resistance.
Yeah.
No, so among other things, US aid, the United States sort of international aid development program, they send billions of rands in aid to South Africa every year, and most recently they pointed out, so there's a conversation going on about America being involved in giving aid to other countries, and someone pointed out, and I can believe this to be true, both that the US sends a stupid amount of aid in the billions every year, and also that we vote against American interests at the UN almost every time. Apparently, our record is 80% against the US at this point, which makes complete sense because South Africa, for those of you who don't pay attention to global geopolitics, last year got... Okay, in the UN, there's a permanent council, and then there's a security council where members rotate in and out. South Africa has taken up its position, I think it's 5 years, on the UN Security Council, which means that we get to vote on things that actually, I don't even know what the fuck the UN does with those votes. But mostly that's where you signal which side of the East-West divide you're on. And South Africa routinely signals that they're supporting China, effectively, against the US. So just FYI, for anyone who thought that America was going to kind of come to South Africa's defense in the case of a catastrophe, chances are more likely that they won't, because we keep shooting them in the foot, including most recently supporting Maduro and sending a delegation.
So, well, it's between that and what was it? The ANC's... Who is it? Those two MPs that got the rape allegations against him?
I've lost count.
But there's two prominent spokesmen of the ANC who were... Oh, I think it was Zizi who said... Basically what happened is two of the... Or was it Ace Magashule who said basically something to the effect of these two prominent spokespeople of our party have had these allegations, and up until that has been resolved, as they say, they have quote unquote decided to step down and step away as being the spokespersons for the party. Going forward, it gets better. Going forward, we as a party, seeing that it's election time, cannot guarantee there won't be any further scandals. Are you shitting me? We can't guarantee that we're not going to do some dumb shit and that our members aren't monsters who aren't going to do some dumb shit. That's basically what they said.
Yeah, no, that...
So that's South African politics for me right now. By week, I'm just like, your whole... It basically amounts to, yeah, okay, we've removed them, but hey, maybe some other shit's going to come up, guys. It's election time. Wacky. I'm like, that's what your whole statement amounted to.
It did, and you know what? At this point, it's like I'm still surprised at people who are surprised at any of these stories, because at this point, it's not. And I say this every now and then when I try to explain why things happen, and there's a difference between incidental and systemic in the way things happen. And incidental fuck-ups are rare, and they're damaging, and they're not anticipated, and they're actual problems. Systemic is when the fuck-ups are as a result of the way everything is running, and that's what we have right now. I mean, it's just it's insane on so many levels that are just depressing to think about. So, are we going to make election predictions? I kind of hope the K Party gains ground, Because I think we should detach the Western and the Northern Cape and just sort of ally with the US, like do like a Cold War situation where it's like,
Oh, what about me up here in Gauteng?
dude, you've got until like next year July to emigrate, okay?
I don't want to immigrate to the Cape. It's filled with Cape Tonians.
Yes, we're the good guys. Come on.
No, wait, I'm a good guy and I'm not a Cape Tonian.
Ooh, that sounds like cognitive dissonance. I think you've internalized the bad guy side. I think that's what's happening.
There's plenty of good guys in the northwest, and you know what? Screw you. I'm just gonna walk over into bots. That's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
No scripture, civil war. I'm gonna
just chill. Yeah,
Let,
it's easy.
you know what, guys? Yeah, actually, those of you listening, just for the next 2 weeks, like hashtag Team Odin, Team Wogan, Team Wotan.
Don't fucking do that, man. Don't put it to a vote, man. Come on.
Somebody's gonna make a tweet, Team Wotan or hashtag Team Wogan.
And it's like, I vote for Cape Town because it's the only part of South Africa that's had a consistent liberal tradition among everything else. Dude, since the formation of Cape Town, it's been go ask any Afrikaner, like a hardcore right-leaning Afrikaner, about those bloody Cape liberals, and oh my god, you'll get a story.
The thing is, for me, that's not exactly a selling point. Being to the right of things, like that's not exactly a selling point.
I think, strictly speaking, we're on the left. Liberals on the left. Come on, you know this.
No, me falling more to the right of things. I
well,
like
the way things
an area having a liberal tradition. It's not a selling point for me.
Sure. So we'll put you in a little refugee camp on the border of the Western Cape for all the right wingers. Oh my god, we're talking about the Boer War, aren't we? No. But anyway, no. This is
this schism had to come eventually. I told you, I already made the hashtags. Hashtag Team Woot and hashtag Team Wogan.
You did, and the thing is, I think my hashtag will win because Cape Town can survive stage 1 load shedding because we have independent power and you don't. So.
Oh, people have phones, you jerk. They can.
Yeah, true. But then you got to tweet that in the dark, and it's very difficult to tweet your support or something in the dark. So, but anyway, what I wanted to get to and kind of to end that off was just that, in terms of global politics, South Africa continually backs the problematic horses, and I kind of see that it might be possible that there's legitimately like a Iron Curtain situation in South Africa where it's like there's a whole bunch of areas which lean very more American and some that lean very more Chinese, and if things keep getting worse, eventually it's going to be like, okay.
Honestly, if I had to rank the 9 provinces, actually let's loop Lesotho in there because they're basically a 10th province anyway.
They kind of are.
Shots fired. Let's be honest. Okay, let's be honest. This is how it would go. Obviously, this is going to be a critical staging ground for World War III, as we say in our little scenario. KZN is gone with the Russians, all right? KZN, Mpumalanga, Limpopo, all those areas. And
like northwest maybe as well, like just sort of to complete that crescent, because if you're going to have the Russian hammer and sickle, you kind of need a crescent shape of the blocks.
I take that very personally that you would insult the Northwest as such. Sorry. Northwest is filled with decent Setswana people.
Okay.
It's right near Botswana. We're going with the Americans.
Got it. Okay. So you'll be the holdout. You will be the front line in the battle between East and West.
Well, between the Northwest and Gauteng are going to be the front line. Oof. And then maybe we could like start production in the Northern Cape because that's nicely buffered and all the production can go on there and get shipped to the front lines. See, we're already metering out World War III. Like
Okay, so what is our Stalingrad then? Is that like on the border? Is that like
Stalingrad is probably going to be either Pretoria or like Rustenburg there, like at the border of Gauteng.
I think Rustenburg, because like Stalingrad, Moscow, you're going to have Rustenburg, Pretoria, like the Pretoria-Joburg metro. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and that's cool. So come to Cape Town because we'll be far away from the fighting. We'll be chilling.
No, I want to be on the front lines, dude. That shit's going to be lit AF.
Well, are you going to fire like nasty tweets at each other? Like, how is it actually going to look?
No, I mean in an actual combat situation. That's going to be lit AF, bro.
Dude, I don't know. I saw the photos of the SANDF getting their vehicles stuck in the beach in Muizenberg, and I'm just like...
Exactly. So they can keep the SANDF. The eastern line side can take the SANDF, and the West Alliance side will take all the ex-military guys from the old days and mercenaries and the current gun-owning citizens of South Africa, and we'll form a new military,
So
and it'll be us against the very capable SANDF. I
they
got $10 on us and against the SANDF.
they got a vehicle stuck in the sand, and then they tied it to a G5 cannon to pull it out, and I'm just I can't deal with it. I just can't deal. So, okay, if anyone in South Africa thought that we had a strong, capable military that could protect our borders, we don't. And they haven't advertised that fact too much, but we don't. No, what we have are a bunch of role players in cosplay that keep selling their guns to gangs. That's all we actually have. So just, if you thought we were okay, we're fucking not.
That's what I'm saying. Let the East side keep the military, and let the West side keep the real military, like this.
But the thing is,
military.
but the thing is that those
Also, I think the Free State and like all the other provinces are pretty much with the West. Let's be honest. Like,
dude, no, the Free State's the most dysfunctional province in the country. The East can have it. Like, fuck it.
actually, yeah, you're right. Okay, so it's the Free State, Limpopo, Mpumalanga, and KZN.
Yeah, pretty much.
Those 5 against the remaining 4 provinces.
And like the Eastern Cape might be the next battleground of just like anyone who can give them services, they'll probably switch sides. I don't think they're up for much fighting. No, but like, just that'll be for like the first year or two, and then they'll start landing actual Chinese and American troops, and then it'll get even more interesting. But hopefully we only ever get as far as like secession. Like, let's threaten a war just to get secession, to just break the provinces back up into countries. It'll be great. I'm still holding out hope for that.
I don't think that's going to work, because I've never seen balkanization ever work where the countries immediately didn't go to shit afterwards. But yeah.
Bearing in mind that Gauteng and the Western Cape, in that order, are the 2 only remaining economic hubs in South Africa, they'll be fine. It's everyone else.
I mean, look at the Balkans now, with the exception of Croatia. Pretty much, they did that whole "let's go back to being separate countries" thing, and how's that turned out for the Balkans? Not well. Not well.
That's fine. We're South Africans. We have magical thinking. We survived apartheid. Therefore, we can do anything. We can defy the laws of economics and gravity. That's how good we are.
True.
So, among other things, I wanted to call out, and there's like not enough time now, but Progress RSA on the UCT campus doing the brave fight back against what is just absolutely insane. They were kind of calling out the curriculum change framework, which is amazing. Like, despite some of the language, I can see that coming out of like Soviet Russia, honest to God. So there's that. Another hilarious tech topic, 2 of them actually. The first one is that a couple months ago, Uganda imposed a social media tax, like 400 shillings a day to use social media. And in the last couple of months, they've lost 2.5 million internet users as a result.
Nice.
And it's like, no fucking shit. You make things more expensive, people buy less of it. That's how it works. But also, they did that to kind of shut down social media, and it worked. People left the platform, and it's leaving all the people that can afford to pay the tax are the ones that are on there. So South Africa might get ideas from that, which would be interesting. Because unlike cutting off the internet, those taxes aren't that difficult to implement, actually. Finally, and hilariously, did you know that Nike makes Bluetooth-enabled shoes?
What?
It's called the Nike Adapt BB. It's a pair of Bluetooth-enabled shoes, and there was apparently an Android update in the last week that rendered the phones unable to pair with the shoes, which meant that the laces couldn't tighten. We're in that world right now. You can look that up. But the thing that blows my mind is that the article is talking about pairing your phone with your shoes, and I'm like, they were already a pair of shoes. What the fuck are you doing? So iOS users had no problem. It was just the Android users who couldn't pair with their shoes.
Great. I can't wait for those memes to hit the internet.
Why? Why? And the thing is, somebody did point out, and there is a very good reason for this, and it is legitimate, is that depending on how you tighten the laces, if you can dynamically change that while you're using the shoe, it does affect how your shoe and your foot kind of fit over each other, and it could have an impact. And that makes
I'm
total
just
sense.
I'm,
But
I'm
also,
I'm mentally trying to pretend like this. You're not being serious about this. That this is like
no. Well, there's definitely the
I
pairing of the
need this to
shoes.
not be real.
It's real.
I
It's real.
really need it to not be real.
It's real. Unfortunately, the shoes are real. The bug is real. The fact that people were left unable to tie their shoes as a result is real. The memes are real. But also,
Okay.
there's the thinnest of
Well,
justifications for having dynamic tightening on laces. The thinnest of justifications. None of which to justify what the fuck
it's
they would
back
do.
here
It's
in
just,
my topic. This is yeah.
and then just the last one in my rundown, so that I make sure I don't miss this. The Verge, on the 25th of February, they published a long form piece going into behind the scenes on Facebook content moderation. Um, it's staggering between that and the the shoes I couldn't tighten. It was actually like, if you ever read those old school tech dystopia novels and wondered if we would ever reach that point, we
We're
have.
getting
No, we
we're
have. We have. There's so the Facebook story. It kind of talks about how, like, the kind of shit that these people have to moderate, and the story is broken into two halves. There's the part where the journalist does her own investigations, and then at the end, there's a thing where they kind of the bosses of the company bring in some people and they talk about how great everything is, of course. Um, but the thing that strikes me is that Facebook employees, the engineers and the marketers, the managers, the people that work at Facebook, they earn great salaries, great benefits. The people that do the content moderation also work in the States, but they're essentially run like a call center. They earn like less than 12% of what the Facebook engineers earn. They work hard, long hours. They can't take breaks, and they're constantly kind of hit with this barrage of it's Facebook, right? Among other things, like, I'm not even going to spoil it because they do call out some of the stuff that they get to moderate. And it's like, what the fuck? So it's worth reading. I'll link it in the podcast and the video descriptions. You can Google it, Cognizant Facebook Content Moderator Interviews on The Verge. And it's staggering to read that, because these people are essentially the immune system at the kind of base of humanity's shit. Like, if social media is a vortex of garbage, they're the ones right at the bottom putting out the worst of the fires. It really does sound like a traumatizing job, and it is. And also, they're drastically underpaid for it, and they're at risk of automation at any point. But right now, Facebook can't build algorithms to do this, so they have to rely on a human workforce, effectively blue-collar tech workers. And you read this and you go, this is exactly out of a sci-fi dystopia novel. That's what this is. So we're there. So please be nice to each other on Facebook. Don't be a dick and don't be stupid. Please. Don't share
okay.
anti-vaxxer or flat earth memes. That's the only thing.
Oh, please no. Okay.
Yeah, no. Sorry, you're saying?
No, I just please no. Like I've been through enough this week. Like I actually have a nice tech topic that doesn't involve the depression of social media, although it's kind of disturbing. And that is, I became aware that people are not aware of a little site called thispersondoesnotexist.com.
Yes. Okay, we got
And
it.
what it does is it uses a generative adversarial network. For those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about, it's a type of AI where basically it generates a person's face. And that person is completely computer generated. It's a photo of someone, but it's completely computer generated. And it's any age group, gender, ethnicity. Like,
I'm
it's
on that site right now, and I'm just refreshing, and you can
and
see.
the thing about this
Yeah.
is that I showed it to some friends last night, and they were freaked out about this, that computers can now generate a person who doesn't exist at all. But the thing about it is that it's tuned in such a way that the subset of features it outputs are of somebody so generic looking that it's kind of like they always sort of come out looking like somebody you maybe know, though. Like
So there's this very interesting, and this is a topic for next time because we're already over an hour. But at some point we'll talk about, because of the way genetics actually works, there will be you can break people down into archetypes that keep repeating. It does actually happen. So I'm looking at the site now, and I do see that occasionally you see rendering glitches, like there's some obvious artifacts. And every now and then you get a photo that looks really, really good. that looks proper. So it's like, yeah, that's creepy as hell.
So there you go for your faked spam account on Twitter. There you go. Just generate
It's
that.
exactly what we needed. Is more spam.
Yeah.
So cool. I just, for my final thought of the show, I'd like to express my condolences to Poland, who have reported their first outbreak of measles for the first time in 10 years. Thanks, anti-vaxxers.
Okay. I was gonna talk about the really cool telescopes we built, but now I'm just fucking depressed.
Also, we're out of time. I think
Yeah. Next week we will definitely actually discuss more tech, guys. I promise.
we will. I'm sorry for depressing all of you. It was just sort of my turn to bring some topics, and my god, this week was a riot.
Next week I'm gonna bring nothing but tech topics for you guys, so that Wogan cannot depress you with our geopolitics. Yet another reason to vote hashtag Team Wotan in those scripts of war.
I fully endorse people voting for hashtag Team Wotan because it doesn't matter at the end of the day anyway.
Wait, are you Tony Stark or am I in this?
You're definitely Tony Stark in this situation. Definitely.
Because of my latent alcohol shilling.
Among other things, yes. All right, guys. Good luck out there next week with the load shedding and the politics drama. And we've only got 2 months to go to the elections. It's 8 weeks. We'll get there. We'll survive.
Yeah. Good luck, guys. We hope to see you next week. And yeah, that's all for me as well.
Awesome. You can find us at noscriptshow.com.